So today we will be going through the introductory part of StatPro again very thoroughly. This session is meant in such a way that you would be in a position to kind of create a model, that is geometry, assign to it properties, that is whatever the cross-sectional dimensions are there for that particular model, you can assign those. You can assign it the properties, material properties, that what is the grade of concrete, or if it is a concrete material, or it is a steel section, or if it is a timber section, whatever it is, you can assign it. Alongside, we will learn how you can assign loads to that particular element or that frame structure, and then we will see how you will analyze and get results out of it It is a very simple class. Okay, so we would be using OneNote as well as StatPro both. Okay, I am sure like you are able to view this page of OneNote wherein I have written 3 by 3 single story. Okay, so this is a single story plan. Okay, so I hope everyone is following and there aren't any difficulties as such. So in plan, assume you have a room. Okay, you have a room which is 3 meters by 3 meters. This is a room, you are having it. Fine. And this room which you see over here is equal in all three dimensions. Length, width, as well as height. Assume this is its length. Okay, width and height. Fine. And we have, say, 4 columns. And we have kept the size of these columns as 230 mm by 300 mm. 230 mm by 300 mm. Or if you want, like, we can change it to 230 by 230 as well. Let us make it 230 by 230. More simple. Okay, 230 by 230. All the columns, all 4 columns are of same size, square shaped. Okay, so C1, this is C2, C3, and C4. These are the 4 columns we have. Let us name these beams as B1. Let me name it as PB1, 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 and PB1. Okay, 4 plane beams we have. And if I try to draw the section for this one, over here. Okay. So assume these are fixed supports. Okay. Somehow we are going to consider a plane beam at this level. Okay. Assume this is 1 meters. Okay. Let us go for 1.5 meters instead. And then we will take this distance as 3 meters. So the superstructure is at a distance of 3 meters. So we have our plane beams at this level, ground level. This is your PB1, and you have your floor beams over here. Let us call this FB1. Okay. Also note, this is your plane beam. Fine. Also note that you have a slab here. Okay, so this is your slab section. This is the section of your slab. Okay, let me name it as S1, and by using some other pen, okay, let us be green, I'm drawing the floor beams. Okay, I'm naming the floor beams. So in places of PB1 you will have FB1, and at slab level, at this height of 3 meters, okay, at height of 3 meters from the ground level, you have a slab. Let us say this slab is a 2-way slab and its name is S1. Fine. So now in all we have many properties now. First property, we will name it as R1, and this property is for columns, Okay, what does the property says? It's column of 230 by 230 mm. Okay, it is made up of concrete, or this entire structure we are considering it to be RCC. Okay, M20 grade of concrete and Fe415 grade of steel, and we are considering the density of concrete is equals to 25 kilonewton per meter. I hope that is clear. The next property R2, let it be, so these columns consist of C1 to 4, 1 to 4. Similarly, this R2 is for plain beam PB1, and which is, say these, what you can say, its cross-sectional dimensions are 230 by 300. Then we have another beam R3, okay, and let us name it as FB1, and its dimensions are again 230 by 300. Specifically, I have kept these two depths as equal. You will come to know about it later on. Okay, let us add one more property, R4. This is for slab S1. Let us assume its thickness is equals to 125 mm. Don't bother, we would be skipping the use of modeling of slab in an instance, and later on again we will have it accommodated in the model as well. So both way we will see, but in our main model we won't be using this slab element as model. Anyhow, what is the objective of this particular what you can say model is objective is that we should be learning. Okay, let me just try typing. Where is it? Insert, draw, ABCD. Oh yeah. So what are the objectives of this particular, what you can say, number one? Okay. Okay, the first objective is to learn, okay, to model geometry, okay, and second is to assign properties, assigning properties. Third is assigning loads. Fourth is analyzing, ANALY, analyzing. Fifth is ANALYSING, analyzing, ANALY, analysis. Fifth is say reports summary, obtaining report summary. So these are the objectives which we are having at hand. Okay, so let us try to go through them. But one more most critical of all these objectives is the sixth one, that is validating. It is validating the software, okay, by means of manual calculations. Okay, so this is the what one you say, one more objective, which is the key objective of all. Fine. So I want you people to move along with me when we are doing this. Okay. So what we are trying to do is will try to find out what are the reactions at R1, R2, okay, R3, R4, like at the columns, at the 4 columns, what would be the reactions we are interested in finding. Okay, this is one objective behind our study. Okay, and we will try to analyze what is the bending moment, what is the shear force for this particular frame. So first things first, let us try to learn how we can model the geometry. So we have this frame, we know the dimensions, and let us see how we can create this. So for that, let me try to explain you. In StatPro, you have X and Z axis in plan. You have X and Z axis in plan, and in elevation, when you're talking about elevation, you will have either X or Z in one axis, and the other vertical axis would be Y. So in elevation, you will be having Y as the vertical axis. Y as the vertical axis. So make sure you know you're very much clear about it. So if I am required to mark the coordinates for the column number 1, let me very quickly change some ink to blue. Okay, let me increase radius. So if I want to mark this node 1 and let me name this node as coordinate number 1, what would be these coordinates in x, y and z? So let us consider this to be origin. So it would be 0, 0, 0. Now coming to the second node, let us name this coordinates are 2, 2, So what would it be? Can anyone type in the chat box? What will be the coordinates for node number 2? What would be the coordinates for node number 2? You people can answer your, what you can say, make your opinions. You can type into the chat box. What will be the coordinates x, y, z in? Okay, fine. So Piyush Sharma has rightly said, Tushar Gore has rightly said it will be 3, 0, 0. Ajankya Mali says it's 4. I'm not sure how he has got it. Anyhow, 3, 0, 0 is the right answer. Similarly, what would be the coordinate for node number 3? You people can type in node number 3, you type and then write down the coordinates. Like 3 is equals to, open a bracket and then type your answer. Similarly, for 4, type of coordinates. Fine. I hope you understand. Okay. So what are the coordinates for node 3? So someone has, yes, Jabi says it's 0, 3, 0, which is wrong answer. The correct answer is 0, 0, no 3, okay, 0, 0, 3. And that too, because as I told you earlier, we have x and z axis, and the z axis is pointing downward direction. It is pointing in the downward direction. So this value would be minus. It would be negative because we are moving away from the z axis. Because we are moving away from the z axis, it would be negative 3. Similarly, over here the coordinates would be 3, 0, minus 3. So these are the coordinates. I hope everyone is clear with this. If anyone is having doubt, he or she can ask. Okay. Yes, I hope no one is having any doubt. So let us try to create these 4 nodes which I have marked in blue ink into StatPro. Is it okay? Everyone is comfortable with that? I hope so. Let us continue. So here, if you look at this window, we have snap node or beam option. We will just close it, and here if you click nodes, okay, here you will mark for the first node what are our coordinates 0, 0, 0. So this is our first node. This is our first node. Let me put shift plus n so that we can get the node numbering. Now let me mark the second node. So what are the coordinates for node number 2? 3, 0, 0. So am I getting the view? But you see, oh, the UCS here, it is in isometric. It is in isometric. I need to change it to top view because I wish to see it in plan. What was my third coordinate? It was minus 3, sorry, it was 0, 0, minus 3. So this is my third coordinate. Similarly, the fourth one is 3, 0, minus 3. So these are the 4 coordinates which I have marked. By using the node cursor, I can select any node, and over here you can see their coordinates you can very easily identify. So this is one method by means of which you can create your nodes. Now let us try to create the beams like we have made here. This is our beam, isn't it? Let me use this blue ink and a dotted line to show you. We wish to connect this line segment. Okay, so we need to connect beam 1 to 2. We'll have to connect it 1 to 2. So what is the method? Here you can see you have different types of beams. Two noded beams are there. Okay, so let us select this segment beam and I'll connect from node 1. Simply I'll simply click on it, release the mouse button, come to node 2, click again. This way I have created one beam. Again, I'll click on node 1, I'll go to node 3, I can click here and I can create this way. Let me show you very quickly how I can create what is the other way to do that. If you look here, you can mention the node A and node B. So here you can write your node number 3, over here node number 4. So your beam from 3 to 4 will get connected, right? Similarly, you can type here 2 to 4. Similarly, you can type here 2 to 4 so that you are right, so that your next beam can be connected. Now you can see if I press shift plus B, you will get the beam numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that is very simple and very clear to you. Now we have created this part, we have created this rectangle we have created. Okay, actually we have created 4 beams. We have created 4 beams at plinth level. Now let us try to assume this is your 0, 0, 0 level, 0.00. This is your ground level. We are going below for excavation for a depth of 1.5 meters. So I need to create this column. I need to initially create this column. So for that, for creating these columns, I'll require nodes. So my node number 1 and 3 were here, and node number 2 and 4 was here. So let us assume 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. So we'll create 4 more nodes. We'll create 4 more nodes, 5 and 7 over here, right? And 6 and 8 over there. How we are going to do that? Let us come back to Start Pro and select these nodes. Node number 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have a very beautiful option. It's called transitional repeat. You can go for circular repeat as well. Now we are using transitional repeat. I am coming to isometric view so that you can understand better, and I have clicked on transitional repeat. I am repeating these nodes at a distance of 1.5 meters below my reference level in y direction, in the vertical axis. This is my vertical axis at a spacing of 1.5, but better mind, it is negative because it is going against the vertical direction which is shown. If I just click on OK, I will get 4 nodes. I'll get 4 nodes. Instead, I can click on link steps so that the new nodes which will be created, they will be linked all together. So first of all, I'll show you without connecting them, without linking them. You see 5, 6, 7, 8. These 4 nodes are there. Let me undo it and again go for transitional repeat. Click in the vertical axis at a distance of negative 1.5. I'll link the steps. I'll click on OK. You see now these 4 nodes are connected and we have the columns as well. I hope this is very much clear to you. What we are trying to do now is that we have successfully created our stub columns. It is from the foundation level till plinth level. Let us very quickly try to develop the geometry for column which is from plinth level to first slab level Okay, this was your foundation level. Okay, fine. So for that, what we'll have to do, we'll have to transitional repeat these columns at a distance of 3 meters height. Okay, very simple. So we have already selected these 4 nodes. They are already there in the selection. Click on transitional repeat, click on y-axis, give a distance of 3 meters, ask it to link steps, just click on simply OK. So this way you can get your 4 columns. So that is very much clear. Let me undo it and let me show you one way more out. What I'm trying to do is I'm selecting these 4 beams. Either I can press on Control key and go on selecting one by one. Other thing I can do is I can move to the front view and by means of crossing window, you can very easily select it. Now you see all the beams are selected. And then again I'll go with transitional repeat, and this time I'll click on y-axis, same distance of 3 meters. I'll ask it to link steps and click on OK. So what has happened? These twin beams, they got transitional repeated for me, and now I'll consider them to be my floor beams. Fine. I hope that is very much clear to you. Now let us continue. So now we have this frame. So what we have done is we have successfully created the geometry, but we have so far not assigned any supports. So let us assume we are going to go with fixed supports. We are going to go with fixed supports, assuming our SBC is equals to 400 kilonewton per meter square. We are assuming our foundation or footings as to be fixed supports. Okay. So how we are going to assign our foundation, or how we are going to assign the supports? Coming to general tab, you have properties, and then you have supports. So let us first of all stick to properties. In properties, you have got define properties option. Section database is there. You can use section database for steel sections. There are numerous sections available. I section, C channel sections, right? L sections are there. Again, these sections are categorized according to different codes. You can either opt with IS code, you can go with, yeah, there are different codes, British code, Canadian code, right? So right now let us stick with Indian code, and you can have different shapes. As I told you earlier, we use these shapes for steel sections. Right now we are considering an RCC structure. So let us define our sections. Coming to define, we have different types of shapes: trapezoidal, general, tapered. We'll stick with rectangular. Okay, so please focus here that the first value we need to enter is the depth of the beam instead of width. Okay, so YD provides depth of the beam. So what are the different section properties we have with us? The R1 property was 230 mm by 230 mm. We need to add all the properties as in meters. So it will be 0.23 by 0.23. So the first 0.23 would be the depth. Okay, let us keep it simple. I'll show you again. YD is your depth, and the other dimension is ZD. It is your width. ZD is your width. WID width, and this is your depth. Okay, so this is R1. What about R2? R2 would be 230 by 300. 0.3 by 0.30. Similarly, R3 is equals to 0.23 by 0.3. Because why we are converting it to meters? Because we'll have to enter the values in meters. Earlier we had it in mm. R4 is equals to 0.125 meter. It is the thickness of slab. Fine. So let me assign these properties very quickly. 0.23, 0.23. Let me add it. So you see my first value is here. First property is there. My second property is 0.3 by 0.23. Third one is 0.3 by 0.23. So these are three section properties for my rectangular section. Let me assign the thickness as well for the slab. Although I told you that we're not going to use it, still just how to model it, I'll try to show you. Again, we will look at it in the further lectures. So right now, let me try to very quickly show you the rendered view. So right now it is a line frame. You see, there aren't any properties to it as such. So let us learn how we can assign these properties. So let me select the first property and come to the top view and select columns one by one. So I have selected all 4 columns and I'll show it to you. So now I'm assigning this to selected beams. STAAD calls beams and columns both the elements as beams, but they are calculated, the analysis done separately. So this is for columns I have assigned the property. Let us go to the render view and see. You see, these are square columns, 230 by 230. Now let me assign the second property, section property. Coming to the front view, I have selected these beams only at plinth level because my R2 property is only for plinth beams. So I have assigned it accordingly. Then again, I'll assign R3 to the floor beams. I'll assign R3 to the floor beams this way. I have not modeled my slab, so I won't find the section to available, like I cannot assign the section because I don't have a slab. Anyhow, have a look over here. This is the frame which we are providing. So this is the frame we are having, and you can see the depth of the beam is 300, its width is 230. Like you can have a proportion, ratio proportion. Let me show to you how you can model the slab as well. So we have 4 noded plate. Let me take 1, 2, 3, 4 and select this plate and assign it to the selected plate. For that I'll have to use a plate cursor. Okay, this same cursor, which beam cursor, won't work. You see, if I'm selecting your beam cursor, it won't select. I'll have to use please pay complete attention, and you'll get to know. I'll also be sharing this recorded clip for this particular session only. You can use it to revise later on. So this is a plate cursor, as you can see, and you can click on assign to selected plates and assign it. So my first property is assigned. I hope you are making sure like this R1 property is assigned to column, R2 properties are assigned to all 4 plinth beams, R3 properties assigned to floor beams, and then R4 to the slab section. Let us come to the rendered view again and see how it looks like. So this is how your slab looks like. Before assigning the property for the slab section, let me just remove one of the beams for you. Let me just delete it. Okay, so that you can get an idea like if the thickness of the slab is also there. If I remove this property of the slab, okay, if I remove the property of the slab, you see that that property is no longer existing here. And if I come to the rendered view now, you see the thickness is lost. The thickness is not there. So let me just undo it. Let me just undo it. So the property is back, and although it is not assigned, okay, let me assign it very quickly. Let me use the plate cursor to select the plate and then click on assign to selected plates and click assign, click on yes. Also, we have lost a beam from this end. So let us very quickly draw a beam from node 9 to 10 and let us assign it property 0.3 by. I'll have to select a beam cursor again because I want to select a beam. R3 assign yes. Fine. This is how it works. Now we have created the geometry, and the second step which we had on task, that was assigning properties, that also we have successfully accomplished. We have modeled the geometry, assigned the property. Now the third step which we have not noted here, it is assigning supports. Assigning supports. Okay. So let us try to assign supports. As I mentioned earlier, we are going with fixed foundation. We are going with fixed supports. Okay, fixed supports. So how do we do that? We'll have to come to next tab, that is support. Here click on create support. Here we have different types of support: fixed, pinned, fixed butt, enforced, tension only, compression, linear spring. Let us for now stick back to where we were trying to assign fixed supports to a section. So we'll come to the front view, we'll select a node. These 4 nodes we have selected. In the front view, you can see the foundations, the footing where we need to assign. So let us click on assign support. So these fixed supports we have assigned to the footings. Now the third part, the third objective is what you can say achieved. Okay, the third objective is achieved of assigning supports. Now let us go with the fourth one. Okay, let us name it as fourth now. So the fourth objective now is assigning loads. So what loads will be there? Let us try to first analyze and calculate it. So if you refer to this section, we will be having brick wall over here. Let us assume we are having a brick wall which is 230 mm thick. Let us assume we are having brick wall of 230 mm thickness. Okay, and its density. Okay, let me note it down very quickly over here. Okay, let us calculate what we are going to calculate. We are going to calculate loads first, LOL loads first. So the first load would be, let us name it as self weight. Let us name it as self weight. Okay, so in self weight, what we have? Self weight, we have the self weight of beam. We'll have self weight of beams. So let us be more specific. Let us write plinth beams, PLINTH, plinth beams. We'll have self weight of floor beams, okay. We will be having self weight of columns, we'll be having columns, okay. And then self weight of slab, okay, self weight of slab. These are the four elements which we are having. So let us calculate one by one, okay. Let us start with columns first. So the columns, we are having a height of 3 plus 1.5, that is 4.5 meters, multiplied by its cross section 0.23 by 0.23. Fine. So 0.23 by 0.23, okay, which would be multiplied by its density, that is 25, okay, 25 kilonewton per meter. So we have done nothing, length into width into height into density. This is the formula we have used. So you can calculate and put the answers for 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, for your plinth beams, we have length of 3 meters plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. 4 times we have it. Multiplied by 0.23, multiplied by 0.3, and then it is multiplied by 25. The answer you can put here. Similarly, for floor beams, 4 times 3, right, into 0.23 into 0.3 into 25. We'll get the same answer here. Then that for a slab, we have simple formula, that is 25 times of D. What is D? D is the thickness of slab. The thickness of slab is 0.125 meters. Whatever answer you're getting, you can put over here. Okay. So from the chat box, let me collect answers very quickly. From the chat box, let me collect answers. Okay. I don't see any answers. Please calculate and put the answers in the chat box. Okay. What is the answer that is? What is it for? Yash Gajbi. You can write 1 PB and what is the unit as well. Okay. Okay. So we have some answers there. Thank you very much. Okay. Let us see if those match with our answers as well. You see, we have in all 4 columns. In all, we have 4 columns. So let me multiply this everything by 4. Let me multiply everything by 4. So the answer rightly given by most of you is 23.8 kilonewton. Fine. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for participating. Now let us try to move to the second load. Okay. That is like in this self weight itself, we have one more component, that is our brick wall. That is our brick wall. So let us try to first of all understand the significance. Okay, if you come here, okay, let me redraw this portal frame for you over here. This is your column, this is your floor beam, this is your floor beam, this is your plinth beam. Okay, this is your plinth beam, and this is your support. So if you consider these dimensions, till the plinth top from the foundation you have a distance of 1.5 meters, and from plinth top to slab top you have a distance of 3 meters. But mind well, the depth of your beam, floor beam, is 0.3 meters. So the effective space available over here is just 2.7 meters. So you will be having a wall for a height of 2.7 meter only. And what is the, and similarly, if you see, you have columns whose thickness is 0.23, from either end. So you can subtract it if you want, but right now I'm not subtracting the thickness of the column. I'm considering, assuming it would be there throughout, and what would be the load because of this wall is equals to its thickness, that is 0.23, multiply by its height, that is 2.7, multiply by its unit weight density, that is 19. So the answer I'll get is 0.23 into 2.7 into 19. So that is equals to 11.8. It is equals to 11.8 kilonewton per meter. If I assume like I'm running this all across the 4 parts, 3 meters each, then I'll have to consider it to be 12 meters. 12 into 18, 11.8. So what value I'll get? I'll get a value of 141 kilonewton. How much I will get? Right here, just for your reference, 141.6 kilonewton. Is it okay? What else do I need to consider? Like if I provide approach to the terrace, there will be some live load here. There will be some live load here, isn't it? There will be some live load. So let me consider this live load is equals to 3 kilonewton per square meter. Okay, so that is actually not self-weight. So now let us actually, from brick wall itself, we should have considered like the imposed loads. Okay, let me make it B, and imposed loads. Okay, imposed loads. Although this is self dead weight only. Okay, all this is dead weight, dead load. Okay, this all is dead load. Okay, this is there in the case 1. Now let us shift to case 2, that is imposed loads again, and this is for live load. So my live load is over a slab area of 3 meters by 3 meters, and it is 3 kilonewton per square meter. So what is the value I'm going to get? 3 cube is 27 kilonewton. So live load directly I have taken as 3 kilonewton per square meter. Third thing I would be doing is making it their combination. Okay, combination. Third load case would be 1.5 times of dead load plus live load. So now very quickly, let me just change the color for this one. Let me make it magenta. Okay. Now let us try to add up all the forces that we have. Okay, all the loads that we have. Okay, so plinth beam, we have it as 20.7. Floor beams, we have 20.7. Columns, 23.8. Slab, okay, did we calculate it for slab? Let me convert it into kilonewton as well. Okay, it is 3.125 multiplied by 9. Okay, so that is 28.125 kilonewton. Okay, then we have for brickwork it is 141. Okay, then we have for live load it is equals to 27. Okay, so let us just very quickly add them all. Yeah, I hope you are doing it on your calculator as well. You can type in the answers in the chat box. Okay, Vinit Kambli has typed as 392. Okay, I don't know how he has got that answer, but for me, the answers which I have calculated is 261.325 kilonewton. Okay, this is the load, this is the entire load. Okay, if I multiply it by 1.5, I'll get it as 391.98. That is almost equals to 391.98. Let us say it is equals to 392 kilonewton. So the load on each column, or the reaction which we should get, reaction on each column support, okay, it should be equals to 392 divided by 4. It is almost 98 kilonewton. It is almost 98 kilonewton. Is it clear? 98 kilonewton. Who's there? Fine. So this is about our manual calculations. Okay. Now let us try to add these loads in our STAAD model. So instead, we have to add the load of the plinth beam as UDL. We will have to add it as UDL. So although we have a complete reaction of 20 point what something, we won't be adding this. Okay, actually we need to consider it as UDL. So let us divide it by the width, overall length, okay, of the beam. So 20 point something, 20.7 divided by 12, you will get as 1.725. 1.725 kilonewton per meter. We need to assign this self-weight because it takes on its own. Similarly, for floor beam, it will take on its own. For column, it will take on its own. For slab, we will assign it, and we will assign this one, 3.125 kilonewton per square meter. For brick wall, we will assign this one, 11.8 kilonewton per meter. Okay, so let us very quickly jump to StatPro. Over here, you can come to loads and definition. Every 10 minutes, StatPro asks it to save the file, so we can save it. Okay, I hope you are following. All of you pay attention, very close attention. Don't ask me to repeat. So here in case of load definitions will come. In load definitions, we have the option of selecting load case details. And here we have load cases details. Here we'll click on add. In add, we have primary load case, in which we will select loading type as dead, and here we will click as dead load. We'll type here DL, okay, dead load. Just add it. So here we have this load case dead load. Similarly, we'll click on live and type live load, add it. Then we will go with a combination, define combination, and here we will select 1.5 times DL plus LL. DL plus LL. Fine. And finally, we'll provide it a factor here. It is very important. Okay, we'll add it. So we have a combination as well. Now we will come to dead load. We'll select it and click on add. Here we will select the self-weight. It will be -1 against gravity in y direction. Click on add. We'll go to member load and we'll add a uniform load of what was the value? Let us come to OneNote and see. What was the value for the plinth beam acting over plinth beam? Yes, can you see here? Brick wall load is 11.8 kilonewton per meter. So let me assign here -11.8 kilonewton per meter. Let me just click on this is global y direction. Keep in mind, add. Then we'll have to add some floor loads, the self-weight of the slab. You see, what was the self-weight of the slab? It is 3.125 kilonewton per square meter. So I'll add it here, minus 3.125. But mind well, I'll have to specify some range from where this load needs to apply. So this is 0 meters and this is 3 meters. So I need to add in this buffer 2.9 to 3.1. So I'll here add 2.9 is the minimum value in y direction and 3.1 is the maximum. I'll click on add. I'll click on add. I'll now close this window because I need to add any further loads in dead load. So you see self-weight, I'll assign it to view. So all the elements get their self-weight. Then I'll click this negative 11.8 and I wish to assign them only to the plinth beams. So I have selected the plinth beams. I'll click to assign to selected beams, assign, yes. So you see the self-weight is there. Then again, we have the wall load acting on the plinth beam as well. You can scale the loads from here if you see them to be very strong, okay? And this is the floor load. Mind well, whichever load case I'm selecting, its color code is converting to blue. Now let me come to live load, add. I have already assigned self-weight, so I need not need to assign it again. I'll come to floor load and add here the live load. I have considered a live load of -3, right? The range would remain same, 2.9 to 3.1. Click on add and click close. The combination is auto-generated. I'll just click on analyze or print and I'll click OK, add. So here we have a command now to perform analysis. So you see we have so far what we have done. We have modeled the geometry, assigned support, assigning supports is done, assigning properties is done, assigning load is done, analysis part is there. So let us see how we can proceed. So we'll have to click on analyze, run analysis, save. So now the analysis will run on its own and we will get some results. So you see there is no any error, no any warning. We have one note. So we can just click on done. And now we will jump to post processing. Okay, but just give me a moment. Let me sip a glass of water. Okay, fine. So now now let us jump to post processing to get the results, and we will get the results for 1.5 times dead load plus live load. Apply, click on OK. Now let me come to the front view. Very quickly select the support reactions, right click it, ask for a new view. OK. Let me come to the top view and let me click on reactions. So you see I have the reactions. They are 1.8, 108. Okay, 108. So all of them are equal. That signifies that it has correctly taken the model. It is not that somewhere there is discontinuity and the reactions are different. But mind well, as you might be very much aware, as we did last time, that we need to change the density of concrete to 25, which STAAD doesn't take it on its own. The default value with STAAD is 23.56. So let us make it 25 and rerun the analysis. And rerun the analysis. Whenever you change anything in the model, the results are no longer valid and you'll have to go for reanalysis. So let us take 1.7 dead load, apply, OK. Come to the front view. Let me just very quickly take these nodes, right click, go for a new view. OK. Now let me come to the top view again. Okay. And also let me check, make sure that we didn't had that. Okay, we also had this what you can say slab in place, which we don't need because we have additionally added the floor load. So let me remove this slab. Okay, told you we don't require it. Okay, we will remove it and go for analysis again. So you see I'm going for reiterative analysis. Okay, fine, we are done. This time we'll come to right click, go for a new view, create a new view. Okay, come to the top view. Okay, and let us go with the reactions now. Okay, post processing. Click on reactions. So what are the reactions? It is 98.22, very close to 100. You can assume it is almost 100. And what was the reactions that we were getting from manual calculation? It is 98, right? The reaction on each column support is 98. So this way, we have just carried out analysis for a framework. We have carried out analysis for a framework, okay, and the same results do match up with the courses from STAD as well, okay. I hope that is clear. You can see the same values here in this tab as well, okay. FI it's 98. It's almost an hour now, okay. It is almost an hour. Let me very quickly show you how you can get the values for the rest of the portal frame, okay, rest of the portal frame. Let me click over here. This displays your entire structure, and you see, I hope all of you are following me. If you want to add some photographs, okay, so you can take picture, okay, you can name it as whole structure. You can come to the front view, or else you can come to the top view first and select one frame, right click, ask for a new view, click OK, come to the front view again and click over here, bending moment diagram. You can click and scroll so that you can magnify the results, and click again on camera and name it as front view or front SFD or BMD, and then you will close it, click on shear force diagram, and take a photograph again, name it as front SFD. Then what you can do is you can just uh, close the shear force diagram and take photograph for this particular frame. So it is element number, element ELE ELEME into element numbers rear, because we had taken the rear frame, isn't it? The rear frame we had taken 7, 11, 15, 12. Now what we can do is we can come to the top view again. We can come to the top view again and take the front view. Okay, come to the front view again and take a snapshot of it and name it as front numbers member. Similarly, you can do it for the rest of the part, that is for the plinth beams as well. New view, create view, top view. Okay, take a photograph. So plinth members. Okay, again come to the front view, select this, right click, new view, create a view, come to the top view and take a photograph, name it as floor members. Fine. So you might be assuming, what is all this drama? Why are we taking this photograph time and again? So let me disclose it to you. What you can do is you can come to report setup. In report setup, you have an option of pictures and job info. Okay, let us forget about job info. Let us take these 7 pictures and click on OK. And now we can go to file and click on export. Sorry. Now we can go to file and click on export report and select Microsoft Word file. Here you can name this as 01, file number 01, okay, pictures of frame. So a script would run and it will ask your permission to run that particular script. Once you allow it, a Word document would be opened which will consist of all the photographs you have taken. So whenever you are providing a report to someone, he can refer, okay, this is a shape, it is a single story, right? And also he can directly refer to the members as well, right? He can refer to the members as well. He can have a look, okay, this is node number 2, 3, 4, 1. He can identify it. So this is how you can get these pictures, right? Let me just close it. Export report is complete. Fine. Now we are structural engineers interested in the values, right? We are interested in the forces. What are the forces? So we can come to the report setup again and select on output. Now I don't need these pictures anymore. I'll click on These are all results. I am interested in a result which would give me the maximum versus section property. Okay, let me just check which one it is. Okay, so this option you need to select maximum forces by property. We have selected that, and we can ask it for which case you want. So we have selected all three load cases, dead load, live load, and the combination as well, and click on OK. In the ranges, we have selected all the ranges. OK. Now I'll come to file and ask it to export a report. This report would be in Word file, name it as 02, and this will give me member maximum forces by property, by section property. Okay, section property. गैस सर गए के बैठे. Okay, so you see they are developing in during the time when these forces are getting developed. You should not disturb it. Okay, and after you click on OK, only then you can come over here, and I'll very quickly teach you how you can adjust it. Right click, adjust to fit to window, just click over here, ask for borders, all borders. Okay, this way. If you wish to increase its font, you can very conveniently do it. Okay, fine, that is all. See, so you have for each section what is the maximum axial force. So this is the first property which you had. It was for column, isn't it? So insert a column to the left. Okay, so these are your members. So this was for your columns, COLUMN, column 1 to 4, right? 1 to 4, right? This is for your plinth beams, plinth beams. What is its name? Its name you have kept as PB1. PB1. Similarly, you have floor beam. You have floor beam. Let me name it as FB, FB1, PB1. Fine. So you have this way. If you want, you can just change the page layout to landscape as well. Click over here. Ask it to auto fit to render. I hope it is very much clear to you now. Okay. So what is the maximum bending moment for case? Okay. So it is negative 8.44. At plinth level, it is negative 11, positive 11. What about shear force? It is 30. So this is according to section property. Okay, let me close it, save it. You can similarly have report as a detailed summary. So in output, I'm no longer requiring maximum forces. I need beam force detailed summary. I need beam force detailed summary. Okay, and I want the range. Okay, for all these sections. Okay, for all the sections I need. So if I want any specific property, I can ask for that. That is, this is for column, R3 is for plinth beams, R4 is for floor beams, right? I can ask for all. Okay, I'll just click on all. Okay, and then again, I'll go to file, export it, Microsoft Word file, and this time I'll name it as 03 and beam force detail summary. So these are getting generated. When they are results are getting generated, you should not interrupt it. Okay, once the details are there, then you can start working on it. Okay, so let me just show it to you once again. Okay, well, let me show it to you once again. We'll go to report setup. From here we will select from output beam force detail summary. Here in ranges, let us go one by one so that you can understand. Okay, this is for columns. Right now we are doing columns, R2. We'll go to file, we'll go to export report and we'll search. Let me name it as 03 again. This is for beam force detail summary for columns. Okay, so that is all. Now we have this report available with us. Let me click over here, right click and ask it to auto fit to window. Let me get very quickly get all borders. Fine. So this what it shows is I have maximum axial force of 98, shear force is this one, and bending is this one. You can see this is for which particular case 1.5 times zero live load, right? Anyhow, now I can close it. Before I close it, let me name it beam force detail summary. This is for column group 1, 2, 4. And then I can close it. See. Similarly, I can jump to other members, ranges, that is R3. Okay, click OK, file. Yeah, then I go for export report, Microsoft Word. Okay, paste it here, and this is summary for plinth beams. Similarly, you can do for floor beam. Right now, what I wish to explain you is the difference between the results of two different elements. When we are talking about a column, that is a compression member, the what you can say, the axial forces will be the one which would be maximum. The magnitude of axial forces will be the max, and you will be designing your members for axial forces and bending moment for case of columns. Okay, and for beams you will be focusing that axial forces are very less. So even if you get just a summary of an element and you are required to identify what it is about, you can very easily understand it is a column or a beam. Okay, so you can see these values. Fine. So now you will compile all the files together and you will make one file that will prepare your stat report. Similarly, you can take down the load cases as well. Okay, in the output now you have an option of load cases. Okay, I'm not sure where it is. Reports, it is not there. So you have an option of printing load cases as well. Okay, I'll show it to you some other time maybe. Over here, right? You see basic load cases you have, and you have load combination as well. So you can get this printed as well. And before printing, you can also check the preview from here. So this is how it would look: dead load, live load, and the combination, the factor, everything. Similarly, you can export it the way we did for the last reports. So this covers your part of what you can say analysis and obtaining report summary. Okay, and we have already validated the software calculations with the manual calculations by a reference of what you can say the reactions. The reaction was matching up. Similarly, the other forces will also match up if you find out the bending moment, beam, column, everything. Okay, so I can stop this lecture here. Next time when we will meet, what we will do is we will resume with designing it, like whatever we have made so far. We will resume with designing it. If someone is interested, for them I can just very quickly show them what are the values of what you can say the bending moment and shear force for plinth beams and floor beams, so that you can re-verify it at your end manually. Okay, so let me select this beam number 1 and double click it. Come to shear force and bending the moment diagram, select the ultimate case 1.5 times dead load live load. So you can note it down. For your plinth beams we have this value of 11.43 at the support and at the midspan at a distance of 1.5 meters, we have it as 11.4 almost. Okay, so for the plinth beam, okay, so let me go for calculations here. Just let me write it down so that next time when we come, we can recall it very easily and you can also note it down. Okay, plinth beam for 1.5 times of dead load plus live load. Okay, what are the results we are getting? We are getting the fixed end moment as 11.4 kilonewton meter, and over here it has 11.48, I assume 11.43 kilonewton meter. What about shear force? Shear force, what are the results we are getting for shear force? Let us very quickly check that as well. Shear, we are getting it as negative 30.43. Okay, 30.43 kilonewton, negative 30.43. Okay, coming to floor beam, same case, 1.5 times dead load plus live load. What are the results we are going to get? Let us very quickly check it for that as well. Let me go to element number 15. Come to load case, 1.5 times dead load, live load. I'm getting at support as 4.84, negative 8.4. It is 8.4. What about the shear force? Shear is 14.22. That is 14.22 kilonewton meter. What about my columns? Let me check for column. Same load case. So I have a column. I'm considering this column from plinth level to slab top. Okay, from plinth level to slab top. So it is having a bending moment of 2.92 at the base and top 2.27. And what about shear? Shear force is negative 1.73. Actually, we are more concerned about its axial force, right, isn't it? Which we have already seen. The axial force is 98 point something in the reaction. Fine. So this is all about what you can say the analysis of the structure. So we'll stop here. I'll take your questions if any, and then we will continue next time. Okay.